This is FYI on your TV, brought to you by Hometown News. I'm Kathy Botham, and I have got Nancy Grundy and Teresa Harrison back with me. You're both with the Kemptville Quilters Guild. Welcome back.
Thank you.
I think it was around the same time last year you ladies were here.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, okay. And Nancy, you're the program director?
I am for the Kemptville Guild.
And
yes.
Teresa, you're the president.
I am.
We got the big guns here today. Now you've got your event going on again last year. Let's talk about last year's. You had people bring their quilts and they were documented, and you have a book together about it too. So let's talk about last year's event, and you want to do it again this year.
Mm-hmm. So last year we had 127 quilts. We could have had a lot more than that, but we just had to let people know at that point that we were full. And we got all kinds of quilts from, the one that's on the cover of our book was from 1859.
1859?
1859, so
wow.
Before Canada even had their confederation, that quilt was made. And there was a few more also, and all sorts of quilts. One was from the year 2000, and it was, it had 2,000 unique pieces of fabric in it that was put together as a millennial project. So lots of interesting quilts.
Wow, so you're asking people that may have them, you know, in their closets, or maybe they've inherited them, that you want older quilts. Is that what you'd like? Okay. I'm looking at this one. I just opened it up too. I think it was Jane Boyd's. It's got names actually embroidered on them.
So those were signature quilts, and they were actually done as fundraisers.
Wow.
And a few of the signature ones that came in, we don't know why they were created. Oh. So we're kind of hoping that maybe someday somebody will see that in the book and know the story, and that story will no longer be a mystery.
Wow, wow. So I mean, this is great too, because you put the book together, so if somebody sees this, they may have some more information on it too.
We had a professional photographer. She took all the pictures and then the numbers, and then we put it in. So they're all here, 127 quilts.
Wow.
It really is, it's a really nice keepsake.
It really is. Oh, there's one, it looks like, this one with all the different, it looks like Adidas on it and everything like that.
So that's an interesting one, because that quilt was made with T-shirts from a runner's marathon.
Oh my,
so
okay.
His wife cut all of those and stabilized them and put them together to make a quilt that keeps all those memories.
Oh, these are beautiful. These are beautiful. So this is the book you put together from last year's event.
That's 2023.
2023.
And like even baby quilts and stuff. And it was most interesting because there was, you know, a couple of fellows that came in with their quilts, and they talked about the story about they were with grandma when she was making it, and how it was set up in the living room, and all the ladies were quilting and they were playing in underneath the quilt and stuff like that. So it was those kind of stories that's really important, and because the quilt came out of the cupboard, and then he's telling his family, then it was documented. So now this quilt has a history. And we know what it is. It's not just a quilt that we're not sure who made. You know, now we know.
Yeah, and so often you inherit a quilt too, and you're afraid to use it, so it's in the closet. But if we bring it to your event, it gets documented. Other people will see it. It's not just in the closet anymore.
Yes.
That's right.
And every quilt gets a label, and the label has a unique number on it. So if that quilt was found someplace in 30 years' time, that number could be looked up, and they would.
That is Elaine
Lang's quilt.
Okay.
And she's from the Kemptville area. So then all this information is documented, and it's restored at the North Grenville Historical Society.
Right.
So again, 30 years from now, if somebody goes in and says, what's this number 433, they'll be able to look up that database and do the history of the quilt.
And that's you've partnered with our historical society.
Yes, in North Grenville.
We did. And North Grenville community gave us a municipal grant to be able to do the work.
Okay. And, so you want people to bring their quilts this year. How do people do that? Because you have to, is it appointment only?
It is appointment only. We do have a dedicated mailbox set up.
Okay.
It's documentation.ngquilts, like North Grenville Quilts, @gmail.com. And once people send the email in, then there's a form that we send to them to gather some basic information. It has different time slots in there so they can indicate their preference. And then we'll schedule an appointment for them and send information to them. And we also give them a sheet on information on the quilt maker and the quilt owner, because you might have to call Aunt Beatrice to find out when the quilt was made and who
Right.
made it and that sort of thing. So it just gives people time to get that information before they show up.
Okay, so you make an appointment, but the day of your events are that you got 2 days, May 2nd and 3rd, and it's at the Grenville Mutual Building. That's where you did it last year as
Yes.
well, too.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
Perfect place for it. And they come in and you don't leave your quilt, you stay with your quilt. Because we have had some people say, oh, I don't want to leave my quilt.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to. You're staying with it, you're listening to the people documenting it, and they're measuring it, and we're discussing, you know, like, oh, this has prairie points, and the fabric that was made, and the pattern, and we have quite a reference library so we can look up in the patterns that were used. And we have it in two forms. So we keep a copy, and the quilt owner goes home with a copy of the documentation too. But again, it's a piece of paper that can get lost somewhere. But if they stored it with the quilt,
Right.
but the label, and here you see Elaine has sewed it on,
Mhm.
so it's going to be there. It's not just pinned on or anything.
Right.
And we've even sewed a couple labels on for some people that went, I don't have any thread or a needle, and I don't know how to do that.
Yes, you may have inherited it, but you didn't inherit the skills, right?
That's right.
That's right.
So
And,
we'll
and
do
there's
that.
no charge
No
for people
charge.
to come in and get their quilt documented.
Oh, good, okay.
If people are interested in the book is $25,
Mhm.
but as far as coming in and getting your quilt documented and getting your label, there's no charge for that.
And you're going to be making another book based on this year's event as well?
We
we
hope
hope to,
to.
yes.
Okay. Okay.
fingers crossed.
Okay. Have you started getting some registration appointments already?
We have. We've got 27 people that have registered already, and we've heard from a number of other people that are interested but haven't registered yet.
Oh,
so.
wow.
But
okay.
we're doing a limit, 125.
Yes, you know your limit now, do you?
We know our limit.
Yes, yeah, in
Uh,
2 days, yeah. Now, who is it that looks at the quilts? Is it members of your committee or,
It's a committee and volunteers.
right?
We have a scribe, so one person that you don't have to be knowledgeable about quilts.
Mhm.
You can just write. We have 2 people that are fairly knowledgeable about the quilts,
Right.
and they're doing the measurements and determining the fabric, the age perhaps because of the fabric. And then we have Beth Garner from Kingston
From
area.
Kingston. I thought there was somebody coming
Yes,
from Kingston.
Beth
yes.
comes up, and she's a bit of a historian and
Yes.
an artist, fabric artist, and then she kind of says what she feels, and that goes into the print.
Okay, now I recognize that's a Centennial quilt.
And it's a Centennial Quilt, so this was the Centennial symbol, a stylized maple leaf made of 11 equilateral triangles to represent the 10 provinces and the 1 territory that Canada had at the time. And you can even see in the white here, they've reproduced that Centennial symbol for the quilting.
Okay, okay. And was that one done by hand?
It was done by hand, yes. Some of it, the quilting was done, but some of it was done by machine. You can see the
Oh,
prairie
yes.
points were
Mhm.
machine
Mhm.
stitched on.
But the actual quilting was done by
Yeah.
hand.
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing, that's amazing.
And this one
that's
is
a beautiful one.
Yeah,
too.
and this is quilted by hand, and these little leaves are all appliqued on, and then it's quilted around it. And I think this is called Around the World.
That could be one of the names for it.
Yeah.
I think laurel wreath is
Or
another
laurel
name
wreath
for
is
it.
another one. And then, of course, it's all hand quilted in here.
Amazing.
Actually, the
Amazing.
stitching pattern on this one looks like the same stitching pattern as
Yeah.
on that one.
A very common one.
The time it takes to do a quilt,
That's right.
it's phenomenal.
And the prairie points is something that is kind of unique, you
Mhm.
know, in the 70s and stuff like that. Nowadays, they don't put prairie
No.
points.
You don't see them very
rare.
often.
Very rare.
Okay.
No,
And
no,
if you
I-
do, it's usually just a couple of isolated spots
Right,
on the,
right,
the
right.
quilt.
And now you've got those big machines to do the quilting as well, too.
The long arm
Long arm.
quilters.
Long arms, yes.
Long arm quilting, yes.
That's right, that's right.
And they're computerized too, that they can just put in the diameters of the quilt, and
Yeah.
then they set the program and watch it go.
Wow.
You
it's
could have
amazing.
stars or cows or snowmen, just about anything you could imagine
Yeah.
as the design for the stitching.
Wow, wow, that's amazing. These are beautiful. I love quilts. They're just absolutely gorgeous. And the time that it takes, like I say, the hands.
Well, the whole thing, they're made with love.
Yes,
and
right.
somebody was actually touching it and feeling it and working with it,
Yep.
and then they're giving it with the same kind of feeling. You know,
Absolutely.
that's why you do baby quilts and wedding quilts and any special.
Yeah,
occasions.
milestone events, and
Yes.
you're usually thinking of the person that you're making it for while you're working on
Absolutely.
it. So
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much for coming here again and putting on this event May 2nd and 3rd, but you want people to register ahead of time, and that would be at documentation.ngquilts@gmail.com
Yes.
to set up an appointment to be able to get your quilt documented
Yeah.
and put into this year's book,
That's
That's
right.
2024.
2024.
Oh, this is exciting. Thank you very much for
Okay.
coming today, ladies. I've got Nancy Grundy and Teresa Harrison from our Kemptville Quilters Guild. Thanks for joining us today, and good luck with your event.
all
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.